about that?
How about that? They love you. We love you. Welcome back to our show, and thanks for talking to me. I want to get into a couple of things. First off, you've had...
The Grand Ole Opry's 100th anniversary was filled with lights, legends, and laughter until Reba McEntire made a remark that stopped everything cold. Leaning toward a reporter backstage, she quietly said, "You know what you did. No context, no names, just a loaded sentence." Within hours, Nashville was buzzing. Industry insiders whispered what fans long suspected. Reba had been quietly holding on to 5 major betrayals, personal and professional wounds that reshaped her career. For the first time, she wasn't hiding it. And while she hasn't named names publicly, those close to her say the list is real, and country royalty should be nervous. At the Opry's 100th anniversary, cameras were rolling, the music was loud, and the energy felt electric. But behind the scenes, something else simmered. Reba McEntire wasn't there just to celebrate, she had something to say. In a quiet moment between interviews, a reporter asked her how it felt to be back at the Opry for such a milestone. Reba smiled politely, but her response wasn't what anyone expected. "You know what you did." The words were low, almost offhand, but sharp enough to turn heads. The statement didn't go unnoticed. That single sentence ricocheted through the press room and straight into the hands of every insider and PR rep in the building. Was she referring to a journalist, a fellow performer, someone from the Opry board? Nobody knew for sure, but the people who've worked closely with her say it wasn't random. Reba doesn't say anything by accident. Within hours, whispers grew. Friends close to the singer confirmed she had, in private, named 5 individuals she would never forgive. These weren't minor disagreements or personality clashes. These were long-held betrayals that cut deep: career sabotage, exclusion from major performances, and deliberate public snubs. Some stories stretch back over 20 years. Some were far more recent. The 100th anniversary stage may have been crowded with legends, but it was Reba who dominated the conversation backstage. After decades of being the face of country grace, it seemed she was finally ready to let her silence expire. The names weren't public yet, but the clues were already out there, and those close to the scene knew exactly who she meant. The first betrayal dates back to the 2001 CMA Awards, an evening Reba was supposed to shine. She had been scheduled to perform a powerful duet, carefully crafted to showcase both her legacy and vocal strength. The rehearsal was set, her dress was chosen. Then, just hours before the final run-through, everything changed. Without explanation, Reba's name was removed from the set list. Someone else would sing the duet. That someone was Vince Gill. At the time, no one said much publicly. It was explained away as a scheduling issue or a creative change. But those in Reba's camp knew better. She'd been dropped, silently, without reason, and without respect. What made it worse was the source. Reba and Vince had shared countless stages and moments over the years. Their careers had crossed paths often, and there was mutual admiration, or so she thought. Vince never reached out to explain. There was no call, no backstage apology, nothing. The silence said it all. In the aftermath, Reba was furious, but composed. She didn't lash out in interviews or take swipes in the press. She simply moved on, but not without remembering who had stood by silently when she was pushed aside. Industry insiders point to this moment as the beginning of Reba's disillusionment with Opry politics. Vince's rising influence in Nashville was no secret. At the time, he had strong ties to Opry decision-makers, and many believe he could have prevented the swap, or at least protested it. He didn't. Years later, in a rare interview about painful industry moments, Reba cryptically referred to a performance that never aired. She didn't elaborate, but now the meaning is painfully clear. That duet wasn't just a song. It was a symbol of her position, her power, and how easily both could be stripped away by those she once trusted. While the Vince Gill incident stung, what happened with Travis Tritt left an even deeper scar. It wasn't one moment, it was a pattern, a slow but calculated effort to exclude her from the very spaces she helped build. It started with a collaborative project in the early 2000s, an all-star country track celebrating tradition, masculinity, and legacy. Reba was initially invited to contribute vocals. She accepted, but when the final lineup was released, her name was missing. According to multiple sources involved in the session, Travis Tritt had voiced concerns about her participation. He allegedly felt the song should remain a men's anthem and that her inclusion would dilute its tone. Whether it was ego or old-fashioned gatekeeping, his influence swayed the producers. Reba was dropped. No official notice was sent. She learned about the cut from a friend on the studio team. The erasure didn't end there. That same year, Reba was booked to perform at a Georgia charity event, an event organized largely by Tritt's management circle. She accepted, blocked the date, and rehearsed a set. But just days before the concert, her appearance was quietly canceled. No explanation, no public mention. When asked, organizers said her performance no longer fit the program. Friends close to her say Reba was hurt more by the silence than the exclusion. No one spoke up, no one fought for her spot, and the person who could have, Travis, chose not to. Later, when Reba was asked about Tritt during a press junket, she gave a one-line answer: "We don't sing in the same key." To most, it sounded like a brush-off, but for those in the know, it was loaded. She wasn't just talking about musical tone, she was talking about values, about who holds the door open in this industry, and who slams it shut when no one's watching. Reba's relationship with Tanya Tucker had once been one of camaraderie, two powerhouse women holding their own in a male-dominated industry. They came up in the same era, faced the same battles, and often cheered each other on. But that solidarity didn't last. In the mid-90s, Reba was in talks to co-host a major televised tribute event for the Country Music Hall of Fame. It was a prestigious role, and executives had her listed as the top choice. But days before the final announcement, everything changed. Tanya Tucker's team allegedly offered producers exclusive tabloid access and behind-the-scenes footage in exchange for making Tanya the solo host. The deal worked. Reba was dropped without warning. She learned of the switch not from Tanya, but from her publicist, who was blindsided by the sudden change in press material. The shock wasn't just professional, it was personal. Reba had trusted Tanya. She never expected a friend to undercut her for headlines. In the years that followed, things grew colder between them. They appeared together less and less. At red carpet events, they barely exchanged words. The final rupture came in 2014, when Reba was excluded from an all-female tribute performance celebrating pioneers in country music. Tanya led the performance. Reba wasn't even invited. When fans noticed and protested online, Tanya posted a short, dismissive message. "Not everyone gets an invite to the party." No names, no direct shots, but everyone knew who she meant. Reba didn't respond publicly, but those close to her say that moment sealed the rift. What began as healthy competition had turned into betrayal, and while Reba has always been careful not to fan flames publicly, her memory is long, and her silence speaks louder than words ever could. Naomi Judd's memorial in 2022 was supposed to be a moment of unity, a final tribute to a beloved legend. Reba had been asked to perform a closing number, chosen specifically for her emotional connection to the Judds and her standing as one of country music's most respected voices. She prepared carefully, rehearsed quietly, and made space in her schedule to honor Naomi properly. But just one day before the event, everything changed. According to insiders, two Opry-affiliated board members intervened and reshuffled the lineup. Reba's slot was moved up, her performance shortened, and her role in the program dramatically reduced. She received no personal call, no explanation. She saw the changes in the revised rundown emailed to her team. One of the board members had clashed with her previously over Opry scheduling. The other had once questioned her prominence at televised events, reportedly calling her over-featured. The decision to cut her tribute wasn't random, it was political, and it was personal. Reba performed anyway. She arrived on time, sang her song with grace, and left without lingering. She skipped interviews. She missed the after-event dinner. She went home. In a podcast appearance weeks later, when asked about the experience, she chose her words carefully. "That night broke my heart in more ways than one," she said. She didn't elaborate. She didn't need to. Those close to her say the incident left her devastated. Naomi had been a peer and a friend. Reba had wanted to honor her sincerely. Instead, she felt erased from a moment that should have mattered. and when she later began referencing 5 unforgivable betrayals, this event was unmistakably among them. It wasn't just about losing a performance. It was about losing the chance to say goodbye on her terms because others decided she shouldn't. The final name on Reba's private list remains a mystery, one no one in her inner circle has been willing to confirm, but multiple industry sources say it involves a country legend tied to a business deal that went sideways in the early 2000s. The figure in question was said to have promised Reba a co-headlining tour, only to back out and take the concept to another artist without telling her. The betrayal wasn't just professional, it was strategic. Reba had already cleared her schedule and begun marketing efforts when the rug was pulled. The tour went ahead without her. Reba didn't speak about it publicly, but those around her recall that she considered it a major turning point when she stopped trusting certain Nashville veterans. There's speculation about who it might be. Some name Garth Brooks, others point toward Alan Jackson, or even an influential Opry board member with dual industry roles. Whoever it was, Reba's silence on this one is absolute. The betrayal was less about spotlight and more about trust, a deal made behind closed doors that left her looking blindsided in front of the industry. And for someone who built a brand on reliability, that was the ultimate cut. Fans have long noticed that Reba's interviews have shifted in tone. Over the past few years, she's grown more reflective and more pointed. Her memoir drafts, in particular, have drawn attention. While no names are listed, several passages reference incidents that line up with real events known only to insiders. One story details a celebrated male vocalist who made a promise and walked away just days before a public performance. Another mentions a sister figure who campaigned for a shared hosting job, only to take it solo. These stories aren't gossip, they're layered confessions. Reba isn't one to call people out directly, but her readers know where to look. Fans online have dissected passages and matched them with events from CMA awards, benefit concerts, and Opry shows. Even her metaphors, once vague, have become sharper. When she writes about doors closing before the curtain lifts, it doesn't sound like fiction, it sounds like someone keeping score. In many ways, Reba's memoir has become the stage she never got to stand on during those key betrayals. It's where she's telling her side of the story, quietly, clearly, and with full control. Reba's offhand comment at the Opry wasn't just a personal outburst. It shook the institution itself. The Grand Ole Opry has long operated under a code: public unity, private discipline. What happens backstage stays there. But Reba's decision to pierce that silence sent tremors through Music Row. Since her remark, artists have been noticeably guarded around press events. Producers have tightened scripts. Even internal board communications have become more controlled. One longtime Opry staffer said, "It was like someone kicked a hornet's nest." The Opry has a carefully polished image, and any suggestion of internal rifts threatens its legacy. Reba's words weren't explosive, but their implications were. If she, the queen of country diplomacy, could finally speak up, who else might follow? Younger artists, especially women, have quietly expressed admiration. One even said Reba gave us permission to stop pretending. While the names remain mostly behind closed doors, the fear inside the Opry isn't about what's already been said, it's about what might come next. For Reba, the fallout isn't just career noise, it's legacy defining. She spent over 4 decades building one of country music's most admired reputations: grace, power, reliability. But the truth is, she's carried a weight for years. The knowledge that the industry she helped shape also tried to silence her when it mattered. Speaking out, even in fragments, reclaims some of that power, and the public is watching with respect. Reba hasn't launched a tell-all tour. She's not naming names in headlines, but her quiet clarity is being heard louder than any accusation. In a world where country legends are expected to smile and stay polite, Reba choosing to remember publicly is radical. It reframes her as more than just a survivor of Nashville politics. She becomes a symbol for every artist who had to stay silent while someone else took credit, stage time, or opportunity. And that may be the boldest move of her entire career. Whether Reba ever names all 5 legends remains unknown. Some insiders believe she never will, not directly. Others say it's only a matter of time before another microphone catches her in an unfiltered moment. But regardless, the damage has already been done. The veil is off. Fans are digging. Journalists are watching. And the Opry community knows that the past isn't as buried as they hoped. In many ways, it doesn't matter if she speaks again because she already has. That one line, "You know what you did," wasn't a question. It was a statement, a warning, a mirror. And for the 5 people who heard it loudest, it said everything they already feared. Reba didn't need to shout. She didn't need to accuse. She simply chose not to forget. And in doing so, she flipped the script on country music's oldest tradition, staying quiet to keep the peace. This time, the peace wasn't worth the silence. Reba McEntire's silence held secrets, but now her words hold weight. While the Opry lights still shine, the shadows they cast have become impossible to ignore. As fans, we may never hear every name or detail, but the message is loud enough. Reba remembers, and so do we. If the country queen's legacy includes a quiet reckoning, then maybe it's time the rest of Nashville listens. Leave a comment with who you think she meant, and subscribe for more untold truths behind country music's polished curtain. Because some legends sing, and others speak when the stage finally goes quiet.